What up, friends? We are all Billy. And today we're going to be taking a look at Billie's newest mini-album, The Collective Soul and Unconscious, Part 1. This is the second mini-album by K-pop girl group rookies billlie. Their debut single, Ring by Ring, that they had on their previous mini-album really wowed me, being one of the most experimental K-pop songs that I've heard in recent memory other than maybe like aespa. Their entire first mini-album showed a lot of promise for the group, I have to say, with very interesting and quirky instrumentals, even if at times I felt like they could have been fleshed out even further. They also had passionate vocals and just everything they needed to establish an identity for themselves. Unfortunately though, this mini-album kind of stripped away a lot of what I liked about the previous mini-album. One or two tracks on this project are pretty fun, alongside some elements on some of the others. However, I feel like overall this was a step backwards for the group. GingaMingaYo, The Strange World, is the lead single for this mini-album, and though it's not as experimental as Ring by Ring was, it is still very fun, quirky, and off the wall. The big synth bass focus give this track a pretty lively energy to it, and the vocals largely follow suit. Both of them have a nice playful bounce to them, and I really like the quirky little ad-libs that are thrown in here and there too. The pre-chorus and the chorus are kind of odd because they largely don't change the pacing or the tempo of the track. Even the melody is kind of similar. However, the track is actually kind of unique because of that, and they do add a few synth flourishes here and there to keep it interesting. There's just a ton of attitude in this song that makes it really entertaining to listen to, especially in Moonsua's rap segments. The subject matter of this song is also pretty interesting too, not one that you see in K-pop a lot, as it's about the sort of confusion and challenges of growing up. A Sign, Anonymous, is a chill little synth-funk tune that comes in out of nowhere, but I love this shit, man. It oddly reminds me of like hippity-hop era EXID, so it's always a trip to hear that sound again. The synth and bass are in perfect harmony here, as both of them have this sort of gritty punch to them that's super satisfying. The main beat is soulful and peppy, and the girls' vocals feel right at home over it too. I'm also really loving that subtle guitar in this track that adds a hint of nostalgia to it. Everything about this song is just seamless and smooth, actually. Lyrically, it kind of continues from where the previous song left off. However, it's more honing in on the experiences of a first love, so it's nice how they managed to do something different but also connect it to the previous track. After this though, the mini-album starts to go downhill. Overlap is still fairly fun, however, it does feel noticeably less dynamic and fleshed out compared to the previous two. It's a chill yet quirky contemporary R&B tune, and I do feel like they were onto something with it, but they just needed more commitment. The verses are the biggest problem for me, actually. They're fine and serviceable, but they sound hollow compared to a lot of the sounds on their previous mini-album. The chorus, however, adds a lot more of the odd sounds that I came to love from the group, like these sort of xylophone-sounding synths and some pretty slick flows, too. I feel like if they applied more of that to the verses, it would have been a lot better, but as it stands, it's an okay track. Lyrically, this song also seems to be pretty similar to the previous one, just more vague though, so it doesn't have as much of an impact. Moon Palace is largely a similar case to the previous track, with very sparse verses and a slightly more fulfilled chorus. However, I find both of these elements to be also more generic than Overlap was. The delicate and fairy tale-like synths are pretty nice, however the song just feels too skeletal for what it's trying to accomplish. The authentic sounding piano does help give the track a bit more of an identity and does help flesh out the chorus more, however not much here seems very unique or just something that any other group couldn't do. It's just not very remarkable overall, and the song is also pretty short, adding to the feelings of it being unfinished or needing to be fleshed out more. The last track, Believe, though, is the most guilty in making me feel absolutely nothing. Everything about this song is cookie cutter and by the numbers, from the blown out synths to the generic 808s and hi-hats. The vocals are decent just because they're good vocalists, but there's nothing even remotely noteworthy about this song. It's just so low impact and safe. I do like the lyrical angle where they're sort of looking back and appreciating their fellow members and their fans for helping them get them where they are today. However, the instrumental just doesn't really match these feelings all that well, I don't think. This mini-album overall just kind of stripped away a lot of what I liked about the group to begin with. The odd and experimental sounds of Ring by Ring or some of the quirkier pop moments of the B-sides on that mini-album are largely on the back burner here. You can occasionally hear some of those elements on the choruses of tracks like Moon Palace and Overlap, however, you can tell that there wasn't much of an effort to use them to make a good song this time around. There are definitely some standout moments on this mini-album, like with the fun bop of a lead single and the more nostalgic synth-funk instrumentals of A Sign. However, that's pretty much it. It's not the worst mini-album I've ever heard, and there's nothing really offensively bad about it, but it's just very much a sort of nothing mini-album. For me personally, it was a pretty big step backwards for the group. I'm feeling maybe like a strong 5 on this one, I guess. Of course, we do have to talk about album covers on this show, and apparently they got someone who did the design of the Plastic Beach album cover by Gorillaz, because this looks pretty similar, actually. It's a similar concept with this sort of dreamy island in the middle of nowhere. However, this one goes for a much more pastel-like color scheme. I think it's very cool and very fitting. It fits the more light, synthy elements of this record. I just wish it had more fleshed out instrumentals to go with it like Plastic Beach did, but, you know, as an album cover goes, I think it's pretty cool, even if, I guess, kind of derivative. But those are just my thoughts on Billie's latest mini-album. What do you guys think? Do you actually like the sound more than what they went with previously? Is it a bit more accessible? Or do you think they also should have kept the more experimental sounds coming? Let me know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you are also Billie. And until the next one, farewell.